gonna stop? I've forgotten what the sun looks like. We should go on vacation. Somewhere warm. Somewhere sunny. Dragon Shores, yeah! I haven't been there since we kicked Nasty Nork's butt. How about it, Sparks? You up for a vacation at the beach? Last one there's a Nork!
Is it working, Professor?
Almost. Just a few more adjustments to these orbs and...
Maybe this isn't such a good idea. Bringing a dragon here could just make Ripto more angry.
Calm down, Hunter, and stop fidgeting.
But you saw the professor's book. They have claws like this, and teeth like this, and they can spit fire like this. They sound much more dangerous than Ripto.
That's exactly the point. A dragon is our only chance of stopping Ripto, and you know it.
It's working! It's working! I've got a dragon!
Huh?
Whoa, rough landing. Hi, which way's the beach? Hey, stop staring. Haven't you guys ever seen a dragon before?
You're a dragon?
You got a problem with that, pussycat?
Well, well, someone forgot to invite me to the party. Were you trying to keep something from me? A dragon? You brought a dragon to Avalar? I hate dragons. Yeah! Crush! Kill it! Kill it! Go, you imbecile! You ate my scepter! I'll deal with you later!
Who was that jerk?
That was Ripto, and we have to get rid of him. He's causing all sorts of trouble around here, but I haven't got time to explain. Here, take this magic guide to Avalar. It'll help you begin to understand our worlds. Right now, I have to follow Ripto and see what he's up to. I'll meet you in Summer Forest, okay?
Hey, wait a minute! How do we get ourselves into these messes, pal?
Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Spyro Reignited Trilogy. And today, we're finally starting Spyro 2, Ripto's Rage. Although, some of you European fans out there, European Spyro fans, will remember this game as being called Spyro 2 Gateway to Glimmer. That's because this is the first level you play in. Glimmer! Welcome to it!
Hi, Spyro! Welcome to Glimmer! Unfortunately for us, a mob of lizards just showed up and started stealing all of our gems. Can you stop them?
So, going from Spyro 1 to Spyro 2, we're going to have a lot more story content. A lot more dialogue in general. But, here's what I'm going to do. When it comes to the character dialogue within these levels, I'll talk over or skip some of it if it's not very important. But if it's important, for example, the first and last dialogue of each level, I will let those play out normally, as well as some other exceptions, at least one of which we'll be running into soon. But at any rate, yes, welcome to Spyro 2 proper. And let me tell you, speaking as someone that played all three of these Spyro games when they were new and released on the PlayStation 1, Spyro 2, going from Spyro 1 to Spyro 2 was a massive jump in retrospect. And it still kind of is. For one thing, the opening cutscene, I think it's twice as long as Spyro 1. There's a lot more story to deal with, and honestly, that opening cutscene was more like opening cutscene part 1, if that makes any sense, and there's like a part 2 that we're going to deal with once we're done with Glimmer. And yeah, they really put you into the action right away. In the original, they started you in the first home world, and not a first proper level. You could choose the first proper level between a handful of them. But here in Spyro 2, they start you in Glimmer because of the circumstances surrounding Spyro. You know, he's trying to go to Dragon Shores for a vacation after the events of the original Spyro, but instead he stumbles upon a portal to Avalar.
Hi, Spyro. I'm a friend of Alora's, and she asked me to help you out. Whenever you find me, I'll remember your progress. Like this. That zap means that if you get into trouble, I'll return you to this place. See you around.
That's Zoe the Fairy, essentially the tutorial information giver of the story of the game. She doesn't really add much to the story itself, but she does have her moments, so keep an eye out for that. There's one other change in terms of the gameplay for going from Spyro 1 to Spyro 2 that I'm going to mention now that is relevant. The enemies that you'll run into throughout the world of Avalar won't drop gems, which is kind of weird because in the original, every single enemy that wasn't an egg thief, or, well, yeah, egg thief specifically, they drop gems of different values. You're still collecting gems here in Spyro 2, which is interesting to think about, but just not from the enemies. You collect spirit particles from the enemies instead, and by collecting these spirit particles, you unlock power-up gates, such as the one up there that you can probably see. Now, something else worth mentioning. You see this ladder, correct? Try to jump into it, you can't do nothing about it. Spyro 2 introduces abilities that you can unlock, similar to Crash Bandicoot Warped, actually, where by completing certain objectives, well, objectives in quotation marks here, you will unlock new abilities throughout the game. For now, we can't climb the ladder, but maybe, in a little while, we can. More on backtracking later. Let's talk to this wise guy over here.
Ah, you must be the dragon everyone's talking about. Well, dragon or not, I'm afraid there is a small fee to open the bridge. It will cost you 100 of your gems to cross.
Just a small fee.
Thank you, Mr. Dragon. Spyro, was it? You can now use the bridge whenever you want, free of charge. I hope we meet again, when you have even more gems.
So meet Moneybags, the money-grubbing bear. That last part I added, but yeah, he's a bear named Moneybags. You pay him gems in order to progress through the game. And we're skipping that dialogue with Zoe because it's tutorial. Talking about, first person, well not really first person, but how to look around. You push the triangle button, or whatever the equivalent is, version game you're playing. I am playing on the Switch version, just like with Spyro 1, and I'll be doing so for Spyro 3 as well. Get that out of the way. Now, the goal of Spyro 2 for now is to go to each of the worlds in Avalar and obtain a talisman. So, that is what we're going to do for now. There's this area over here, but I don't think it's worth talking about, and I will come back for that off screen. Because backtracking is something that's introduced in Spyro 2. There wasn't really any forced backtracking in the original Spyro for 100% completion. More on 100% completion as we enter the next homeworld. Let's do a little bit of cleanup here. One more gem, and talk to the gem cutters, I believe they're called, and get our first talisman.
Spyro, thanks for helping us fight off the lizards. Please take this talisman of Glimmer as a sign of our gratitude.
And this is going to be our first of 14 talismans, ladies and gentlemen.
This magic portal next to me will take you to Summer Forest, one of the homeworlds of Avalar.
But yeah, there are 14 talismans to collect. We've already obtained one, so when you really get into the game proper, you're going to have 13 more to collect. Without further ado, let's step foot into our first proper homeworld. And I get a little bit of a break for myself, because we're going to have even more cutscenes to explain more of the story, which is great.
Oh no! Oh, hello. We didn't get a chance to introduce ourselves before. My name is Alora.
Hi. I'm Spyro. What are you, some kind of goat?
I'm a fawn, you dork.
Oh, sorry.
Did you meet the gem cutters in Glimmer?
Yeah, they gave me a souvenir, too. They called it a talisman.
They gave you a talisman?
What, is it special? I just stuck it in the guidebook you gave me.
Well, there are 14 talismans in Avalar, and they are all magical. If you can collect enough of them, they can be used to defeat Ripto. Hunter, where have you been?
Oh, I got a little lost.
Spyro's gonna help us collect the talismans.
I am?
He is.
Spyro, look. There's no way you can get to Dragon Shores right now. Ripto and his monsters have taken over the castle here in the Summer Forest. You're going to have to go to Avalar's worlds and convince the inhabitants to give you their talisman. You can keep them in your guidebook.
Hey, I could do that. Why doesn't the dragon just torch Ripto?
Hunter, you can't even keep track of your running shoes. How can we trust you with 14 talismans? If you come across any orbs, they're important too. But I'll tell you about them later.
Okay, no problem. I'll collect a few talismans, give Ripto the old hot foot, and be in Dragon Shores by lunchtime.
Lunchtime is a very generous time frame, Spyro. But anyways, now, welcome to Spyro 2 proper. We got the intro out of the way, and now we're in the first proper homeworld, which is Summer Forest. There's a theme with the homeworlds in Spyro 2 where each of them are named after a season in the year. Although some of the names may not be as common that you're used to. We'll see that with the next homeworld that uses a term for a season that you may not be familiar with initially, but it'll make sense when we get there. But for now, welcome to Summer Forest. I hope you enjoy it because we're going to be here for more than one part. If you watch my Spyro Let's Play, Spyro Reignited 1 Let's Play, every world got its own part of about 40-ish minutes apiece, give or take. But Spyro 2, things are going to be different. We're probably going to be in each homeworld for 2 or 3 parts. At any rate, let's talk to Elora again.
Spyro, this is the homeworld called Summer Forest. There are portals to many of the Avalar worlds around here. Unfortunately, Ripto has taken over the castle, and we need your help. Start by retrieving the talismans from each of the worlds you visit.
So yeah, at this point, the game does push you to get talismans. Gems, orbs, anything like that. Now I think about it, I think we have yet to collect a single orb, but like I said, those aren't terribly important right now. We'll worry about those when it becomes more relevant. For now, our goal will be to collect the talismans. We're also going to be collecting gems because we need to pay money bags to make further progress, frustratingly enough. Moneybags is a necessary evil in Spyro 2. But anyways, I do want to talk about some of the redesigns a little bit while I have the time. Laura's redesign in particular, compared to how she looked in the PS1 game, I don't know. I think I prefer the PS1 design more. And this new design, at first, I really thought it was weird how they did it. But over the last couple years of this being out, I think I've come around to accepting it as an alternative take, and I think it's good in its own right.
Remember, press the jump button, then press jump again to glide.
And here's Hunter the Cheetah. Design-wise, he looks honestly like an updated version of how he did in the original. I mean, he basically was a Muppet version of a cheetah, so now he just looks like a proper anthropomorphized cheetah. So, you know, nothing really problematic there, even remotely controversial, I feel anyway. So you see there's a lot of water around here, right? And, well, in Spyro 1, the water actually damaged Spyro. Thankfully, the water won't damage Spyro this time around, but, you know, it looks like there's stuff under the water. Like, you see some gems sparkling in a tunnel. That seems to imply that you're going to learn how to swim, right? I wonder if Moneybags has something to offer.
Sorry, Spyro. I'd love to teach you how to swim underwater, but not as much as I'd love to take your treasure.
So Moneybags will teach you how to swim underwater for 500 gems. That's quite a step up from 100 in Glimmer. Thankfully, there is a way to get the ability to swim before you really need to make any major progress. There is a level here that you can do 100% on the first pass, and you'll have enough gems to get swimming, and you can almost completely clear out this homeworld afterwards. And that's kind of the goal of this first episode, at any rate. The main goal of this Let's Play will be to get to Dragon Shores. And you actually don't need every single item in the game to do so, unlike the original Spyro. What this means is there will be some backtracking here and there, as well as some levels towards the end will likely be skipped. But if you are a fan of those levels, I wouldn't be too worried.
Hi, Spyro. You look like you're pretty agile. Let's try putting it to a test. See if you can get up this first step. Press the jump button and hold it down to get more hang time.
So this is the obligatory gliding tutorial, which has been greatly expanded compared to how it was in the original Spyro.
Okay, not bad. Now to make this next jump, you'll have to glide. Press the jump button, then press jump again at the top of your jump to get the maximum glide distance.
And just to throw this in, I mentioned this in the Spyro 1 Let's Play, but here in Reignited, if you charge and jump, it's a little bit better.
Nice job. Now try to do a hover. Press the jump button, then press jump again to glide. When you reach the end of your glide, press the action button to hover. Hovering will give you extra height and distance.
So this is the new thing they added in Spyro 2 as far as Spyro's default moveset. In the original, when you push the action button, which would be triangle or whatever the equivalent is, you would just drop down in mid-flight, to quote Gildas, I believe his name was. But, you just do that, and bada bing, bada boom. So now you got the hover, which will make all those tough glides a little less tough and a little more consistent.
Very good. Now for the hardest leap of all. You'll have to give this one everything you've got. Get a walking start, jump, glide, and hover just before you get to the edge of the platform. Don't forget to press forward on the left stick when you hover.
I get the feeling holding forward on the stick is somewhat common sense at this point. And again, here in Reignited, if you charge, you might get a little bit of an extra boost to your glide. I wouldn't recommend doing that too much in the original, unless you're talking about the original PS1 version of Spyro 2, in which case you may just trigger a very special sort of glitch.
Wow, you're a pretty good athlete. If I hadn't lost my running shoes, I'd take you on for real. For now, here's an orb for your collection.
And now we finally collect the orb. I'm going to want to collect at least 3 of these for something we're going to deal with towards the end of this episode, hopefully. At any rate, you drop down here. I believe we've collected all we can from Summer Forest up to this point. So here's the level portal to Idle Springs. This is a level where you actually need the ability to swim in order to clear it out the first pass. So I recommend going there after we go to the next level, which is, let me skip this dialogue, which is over here and called Colossus. Colossus and Idle Springs are kind of a pair of levels, I guess you could say, and Glimmer is just kind of there for what it's worth. But yeah, Colossus is a level, pretty much the first real level of the game, since this is the first level where you can actually clear it out on the first pass. So without further ado, why don't we just glide on in here. Doth my eyes deceive me? Was that an intro cinematic for an individual level? Well now, Spyro 2 not only stepped up the story presentation, but also the overall presentation as well. Very nice.
A Yeti has been rampaging around our home, but we've managed to trap him by shutting all the doors. If you talk to the other brothers, they will open the gates and guide you to him.
So the goal of Colossus is to deal with the Yeti, ruining the calm concentration of these monks here. And I really like what Toys for Bob did with the direction of the voicing for all these NPCs. It's a lot more calm than how it was in the original game, where they all kind of sound a little out of it. But I guess because they just had to deal with a Yeti, it kind of made sense. So, in the opening cutscene, we have to deal with the threat of Ripto. You're not going to really see a lot of people worrying about Ripto throughout most of these levels, and I think there's a good reason why.
By concentrating, I should be able to open this door for you.
You gotta love a good yodel. Well, more of a monk chant than a yodel, but you gotta love it, man. So, since enemies don't drop gems, this means you only have to kill a certain amount of them to get enough spirit particles to activate the power-up portals. You do that, and you really don't have to kill any more enemies if you don't want to. So, but, yeah, the goal of this level, we gotta deal with the Yeti. But speaking more about Spyro 2 and the level progression, I do want to talk about backtracking a little bit, as well as which levels can, or what levels do need it and which levels don't need it, and how I'm going to handle that for this Let's Play. Now, while you don't necessarily need 100% in order to see everything the game has to offer, you do have to get a significant amount. I have been planning this in between Spyro 1 and now, the Let's Plays I mean. I have been going back and forth with how I wanted to do the progression. And I've settled on, basically I will be doing the backtracking, but I will be doing most of the backtracking to previous levels when you obtain a new ability, like swimming or climbing ladders. I will be doing most of that off screen to buffer my gem and orb counts for the late game. That'll help with unlocking Dragon Shores, you know? But before we get there, you absolutely need all of the talismans. That is always mandatory just to beat the game, to reach Ripto, beat the game, and all that.
Hey, look what I can do.
So, yeah. Most of the backtracking, you don't have to worry about it. It will be handled off screen. There will be a couple of exceptions, though, in terms of the backtracking, because there are at least a couple of missions that I do want to show off and talk about in the Let's Play context. One of which I've kind of been hinting towards since I started doing the Crash 1 Let's Play.
Remember Hunter's...
So, yeah, we'll be doing it like that. As for now, we can get everything in Colossus on the first visit, thankfully. I also want to say, I really dig the aesthetics. It's like an icy mountain sort of thing, but not quite. This theme will be kind of revisited in later Spyro games, but not quite to this extent. And you know, it's nice to start off Spyro 2 with something really chill and laid back. Which, I mean, does it get any more laid back than something like this? I don't think so. So, we have, I don't know how many enemy particles we have. I'm pretty sure the Yeti actually counts as a spirit particle, so, well, I actually don't want to do that quite yet. Let's see if we can glide over here. This is the metal chest for Spyro 2. You need to find something that can destroy it, like a supercharge or what have you. And we knock that guy out, and then we knock this goat out. And now we have 11 particles. Alright, click these gems, and we can go ahead and glide right into the fancy, smashy power-up portal. This is a super jump. Hold on. There we go. Got it to work that time. Didn't want to work at first. Man, I find that sometimes they can be a little inconsistent with that. But the super jump kit was also really bouncy in the original version, so it being more controlled is probably for the best. Alright, we're going to explore around here a little bit and collect a few more gems. That is another difference going from Spyro 1 to Spyro 2. There are actually missions and objectives now that are given to you by NPCs in a very traditional format, I might add. Also, the fireworks return. They weren't very abundant in Spyro 1, but they are back with force. You can use them to destroy the metal chests. I'm pretty sure that's the only metal chest here in Colossus. So nice to get out of the way. And we have enough gems to unlock the ability to swim, which we will be taking care of as soon as we finish with this level. I will be collecting everything in the level and showing pretty much everything because, yeah, why not? Ooh.
Thank goodness you scared that evil spirit away. But now it will hide in the statues. If you were to flame all 10 statues, I'm sure you would chase it away for good.
So to get this orb, we need to flame 10 statues. You may have seen a lot of them up to this point, and they're gonna turn a more greenish color. But I don't know, in the remake it looks more like a brown, maybe a greenish brown. I would say it's not very green. It was very green in the original because, you know, PS1, more limited hardware. They had a more limited color palette to work with, I'm sure, but yeah, I'd say they're more of a greenish brown, but you can still tell the difference between a corrupted statue and a not corrupted statue. And that one seemed to take a little bit of a fight, didn't it? The floating spirit thing, for some reason, reminds me of Ghastly. It's always reminded me of Ghastly from Pokemon, the Pokemon Ghastly, specifically. Just a floating, ghostly gas ball. Just, you know, no real particular reason. Yeah, you do have to do a little back and forth to get all these statues. And I have had runs where I might have taken a little longer than necessary to get, like, the last couple. But, you know, this is still early game territory. Don't expect a difficult objective, thankfully. So we're going to leave the professor to his own devices as we continue to move forward and deal with the Yeti. But we're going to go above the Yeti. We'll be trying to do all the talisman tasks last because, you know, that makes the most sense. Got a statue here, and we still got 3 more statues to go. Oh boy. Got a bad feeling that I might have to do some jump hunts to get the other 2, but that'll be fine. Get the last gems in this cave. The gem count for all of the levels in Spyro 2, for better or for worse, is a lot more consistent than what it was in Spyro 1. In Spyro 1, the gem count could fluctuate between 100 to 500, generally going up the deeper you go into the game. In Spyro 2, every single level has 400 gems to collect. Sometimes you can't get all of them on the first visit, but I assure you, the gem count is quite consistent. The only potential deviancy might be the replacement for the flight levels, which we might be seeing towards the end of this episode. At any rate, we come all the way over here, and, well, looks like this guy has 2 orbs. It might be worth to talk to him.
Ah, Spyro, welcome. We have found that hockey is a peaceful and calming sport. Would you like to join in a match against our goalkeeper?
Hockey? Peaceful? Calming? All in the same sentence? Man, this guy must be really chill. Like, really chill.
You have 2 minutes to score 5 goals in the red goal.
So, yeah, we're playing hockey. No, let me try it again. We're playing ice hockey. Oh, God. We're just playing hockey. But kind of, sort of, not really. Because you need to get the puck. Thankfully, the hit detection seems to be generally good. And you just need to put the puck in the goal. I find that this is a little bit nerfed compared to how it was in the PS1, which might have been a little janky in retrospect. But either way, this it doesn't get annoying yet, because as you remember, the guy has 2 orbs, and he's only offering 1 right now. So you get 2 minutes to basically score 5 goals into this goalkeeper. And there is absolutely no risk. As long as you do it within the time limit, you'll get the orb. It's almost like this is a practice session for something. Definitely keep a footnote on that. But yeah, the goalkeeper I find is generally slower than how he was in the PS1 version, which means that getting the puck in the goal is nowhere near as strenuous as it used to be. So, I don't know. Maybe he's onto something with hockey potentially being a peaceful and calming sport, because I'm not really feeling all that much tension right now. I gotta be honest, this is actually somewhat chill, shockingly. And maybe even a little repetitive. I actually am glad this is gonna be the last goal. Yep.
Well done. Have this.
Alright, this is the second orb we've gotten so far, I think.
Would you like to try a game of one-on-one?
One-on-one? I knew it. I caught on to your little scheme, Brother Kip. You want me to go against someone in an actual game of hockey. That is most not common.
The first to score 5 goals wins. You are shooting at the red goal. Off you go.
Let's get ready to rumble in ice hockey! So thankfully, you can flame the other goalie and stun him for a little bit, for as much good as that's going to do. But having to deal with him and the goalkeeper, it adds a difficult layer. But here's some good news: you don't have to worry about a time limit, right? Why would you need a time limit in an actual game of hockey? Holy cow, that was probably a lucky shot. So there's a skill point here. If you get 5 points, and I do mean 5 points, before this guy even gets 1 point. Not very easy to do, by the way, as you can see. You keep flaming him, it helps. But getting 5 points without him getting a single point is not easy to do. But if you do it, you get a skill point. How am I going to handle skill points for Spyro 2 coming off of Spyro 1? Same situation, they aren't necessary for 100% completion, letting alone seeing everything the game has to offer, so I will try to get them, but if I don't get them, well, worst case scenario, they will get off-screen. Doomed to off-screen purgatory, as some may argue. What the heck happened there? But let me tell you, this is so much, it's so nerfed compared to how it was in PS1. It ain't even funny. Like, it used to be a challenge. This, well, it can still be kind of finicky. I won't lie. I mean, generally, unless the opponent scores a shot, the puck isn't going to go in your side's goal, for better or for worse. Although I will admit, I'm getting a little bit of a fight right now. Little bit of a fight right now, not gonna lie. Oh boy. This is getting pretty intense. Oh boy, gotta get the puck. Come on. Oh boy, this might be it. This might be it. Nope. Wasn't meant to be. Okay, I'm probably not getting the skill point. Oh, wait. Flame it. Gotta say, the Yeti opponent looks more like a bear, though. In Reignited, I don't know if maybe that was their intention, but I'm pretty sure every single one of these guys is supposed to be Yetis. It's almost like this is the Yeti's home turf or something. And the monks just kind of barged in, for better or for worse. Alright, yeah, this is really starting to drag. Well, better it be the last shot that drags out. Adds to the intensity of whether I'm going to get the skill point or not. I just want the orb. That's all I need. Alright. Whoa! Hey! Hold on a minute. I call foul. Now, you better not get a shot. Better not get the shot I'm about to say. I was about to call foul. Oh!
Well done. Have this. If you stare at it long enough, you might not see anything.
Let me be honest with you guys. I really was expecting worst case scenario on this mission because, oh boy, that ice hockey can be a real ride. But hey, we got 3 orbs. That's what I need for now. So hopefully the rest of this episode is smooth sailings. Still got a few statues to flame though. So let me go around here and is this another corrupted? Yes, another corrupted. So we got one more statue that's still corrupted somewhere. Actually, I think I know where it is. I think it's that guy over there. Huh. Oh, about the hover in Reignited. In the original, you could pretty much hover whenever, but in Reignited, you need to have been in the air for a few seconds before the hover will actually work.
Well done, Spyro. You've scared the evil spirit away. Why don't you take this? I borrowed it from the temple. They don't need it.
Alright, so that's all of the gems, I believe, for Colossus. All 3 of them. We have 4 total now. Should be notification. Yep, all orbs collected. There should still be some gems, but I suspect the gems and our Yeti friend might be in the same area.
Even though I'm a vegetarian, I think you should torch that Yeti. He's pretty tough, though. In fact, I'm not sure you're up to it.
Fun fact, in the original, the NPC here would say kill, but the dialogue would still say torch. A last-minute change by Insomniac back in the day to secure an E rating, even before the E10 Plus rating was even made? Possibly.
I thought the Yeti was tougher than that. I guess he was all bark. Ruff, ruff. Anyway,
I was just guarding our sacred talisman to make sure the Yeti didn't eat it.
Somehow I doubt that Yetis have an appetite for metallic objects of indeterminate material, but... Well, we took care of the Yeti. This should be the last of the gems. Alright, hey! Pretty solid run. I think this is actually one of the better runs of Colossus I've had, actually. Ice hockey shenanigans aside, but hey, makes it more fun to watch, and I still got the skill point. That's what I'm talking about, so... That takes care of 100% for Colossus. This is pretty much the last main level for this episode, but we're going to head back to Summer Forest, and we're going to do some cleanup to finish this episode off, alright? Alright, so welcome back to Summer Forest. Before we do anything else, number one priority, talk to Moneybags.
Hello there, Spyro. Would you like to learn to swim underwater? I suppose I could teach you for a small fee.
Just a small fee? Every frickin' time.
Great. Okay. When you jump in the water, you can use your left stick to move around the surface. Use the charge button to dive underwater. When you're underwater, use the jump button to paddle and charge button to charge.
It is worth noting that in my experience playing through Spyro 2 many times, I almost never use the paddle underwater. I generally just charge through it all because I just find it faster and or more efficient. That's just my personal preference, don't you know? But yeah, for the first time in the series, you can actually go underwater and do some underwater stuff. That's pretty cool, right? So we're going to jump back a little bit to the first area. And we're going to go underwater there because it might be a secret or two. You can never really say for sure. And yeah, there's Allura. I think I've said all I need to say about her redesign and reignited. I think I need to talk about Hunter a little bit more. I think I talked about his design, but I need to talk about his change in voice acting. But actually, I think I can go ahead and talk about it now. Well, it seems like Hunter swapped out his bag of pot for a bag of sports equipment, and you know that might be for the better, but I have a fondness for the way that the original voice actor portrayed Hunter in the PS1 version of Spyro 2, and you know, but I will concede that this new guy does a really good job with his more original take, which actually does make a lot of sense thematically for the characters. So even though I have my nostalgia biases, I concede that the voice acting in Spyro Reignited 2, or Spyro 2 Reignited, I should say, is generally just as good, if not potentially objectively better, because the PS1, and sometimes when the voice actors talk, you know, they had to compress the voice files and all that, and sometimes that can affect the quality of the voice acting. Not always, because the PS1 was notorious for being on a CD format, so generally there's more space that you can put on a PS1 disc, and generally the PS1 was normally really good about audio stuff. In fact, the original PlayStation model was very good at playing music CDs. So, yeah. Alright, so here we have a portal to Hurricos. This level is rather interesting, I think, especially when you think in terms of the context. We will be doing that in the next episode. Same with Sunny Beach over here. They're both in the same area, so it just makes sense to do them in the same episode. There's Allura over there for another potentially optional dialogue. She'll talk about, "Oh, Spyro, you can't climb this ladder. There's an orb atop there." In fact, it's right over there. I think you can see it glimmering in the background. There's an orb and 10 red gems atop this ladder. I'm going to mention this now in case I don't show that on screen, because as I mentioned earlier, most of the backtracking will be done off screen. But, like I said, there are a couple of missions that you backtrack for that I think are pretty cool to show off. So, you know. Alright, now we've got an interesting puzzle here. So, this button will open that door, right? And this is a good thing to do to get those vases. Vases or vases? I don't know. Laura's over there with a empty-looking portal, but we're going to save that for a hot minute. Alright, we're going to jump on here, and what you need to do is glide to the other side. This is one of the tougher glides in the game, actually. I might need a little concentration for this. Alright, the hover coming in clutch there, but by doing that difficult glide, you collect yet another orb. Alright, we're gonna head down here for some more gems. Bunch of gems, let me tell you. There's money bags over there. I'm not sure if I have enough gems to pay him off yet, but let's head over here. I'm trying to show off as much as I can because for the majority of this Let's Play, I'm gonna be cutting out the in-between movements between level portals because I'm gonna try and show off where all of the level portals are during the initial homeworld run, and I'll be warping around to save you, the viewer, time.
Hi, Spyro. This talisman door will only open if you have all 6 Summer Forest talismans. Once the door is open, Ripto and Crush will be waiting in the dungeon.
Alright, so basically our first boss is behind this gate, but we need 6 talismans from Summer Forest. We already have 2, so we're 1/3 of the way there. And let's head back a little bit and get these gems over here. I think those are some of the last gems you can get. Alright, we have 400. Maybe that's enough to pay him off. Let's see.
Say, Spyro, you see this wall here? I bet you're dying to know what's on the other side. If only I had a few more gems, I might be able to remember how to lower the wall.
Oh man, we have just enough gems for this. I am so relieved that this is such a small fee to pay.
Ah, yes. The sparkling beauty of those gems seems to have jogged my memory.
Worst case scenario, there is a backup that is going to be ending off this first episode, actually. At any rate, you will need to pay money bags an additional small fee of 400 gems. Oh boy. To unlock the level portal to Aquaria Towers. That one we're not going to be doing for a minute. I believe that's going to be like the episode after the next. Spyro 2 is a beefier game than Spyro 1, so as a result, you should probably expect this Let's Play to be a good bit longer. At least a couple more parts longer in general, which is fine. So anyways, I'm going to double check my, okay, 382. So there's 8 other gems unaccounted for, but no big whoop. We can just get those off screen. Or actually, there's a couple of them right here, so we'll just get those 2. But anyways, everything else in Summer Forest is pretty much you need the climbing to get. So I'm not going to worry about that on screen. We're done with Summer Forest on screen right now. So let's talk to Laura and see what the situation is with this portal.
Nice work, Spyro. The orbs you're carrying have activated the special portal. You won't find a talisman in Ocean Speedway. But if you're fast, you'll get lots of treasure. Have fun!
Alright, so this is going to be our first Speedway. This is the replacement for the flight levels from the original Spyro. At any rate, let's head into our first Speedway and finish this episode strong. Alright, so welcome to Ocean Speedway. This can be kind of a tough one. So there's a skill point for getting everything really fast that I almost never get unless I'm really trying hard, so I'm not going to show that off unless it happens by accident, which I strongly doubt. But if you get all the obstacles, you will get gems for that. You won't get orbs for that. You'll just get gems. I want to say 400, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the speedways are the exceptions to the rule and they might actually be 300 gems. But whatever it is, it's mostly semantics at this point. Best order is to do the rings, and then the arches, and then the boats, and then we'll do all those vehicles last. It's very easy to accidentally fall into the water while you're doing the boat section of Ocean Speedway. That's one reason why getting the skill point is kind of annoying at points, not gonna lie. But yeah, Ocean Speedway, even though this is the first one, I feel like honestly this might be the hardest speedway, or at least one of the harder ones. At least with the vehicles, you can just charge against them, so it really doesn't take that long. I recommend D-pad controls for turning while you're supercharging. It's not as finicky, I find, as if you're using the stick. Bam! Didn't get the skill point, unfortunately. It's better to go for the skill points on like the second pass or later. So normally, if this was Spyro 1, we would be done. But after you do the main objective of a speedway, retry it, and let's look around. Oh, the best time to get the skill point here, I believe, is under 110. I believe. Alright, so let's ignore the obstacles and fly over here to where all these fish people are.
I guess now you think you're pretty good. Well, let's see if you're as good as the current champion.
Okay, so every speedway in Spyro 2, they have a little extra something compared to Spyro 1. Makes up for there being less of these in general, I suppose. You'll have the regular objective obstacle course, just like in Spyro 1, but you'll also have a secret mission that involves doing something with Hunter. That's the champion of this area. I'm not trying to spoil it, but I mean, it becomes obvious as you do the other secret missions in the speedways.
All right, Spyro. Meet the course champion. In order to win the race, you must fly through all the rings. But beware, if Hunter flies through a ring first, the ring will start to shrink.
They try to frame this as if it were a race, but it's actually impossible to outrace Hunter. All you need to do is just go through all the rings. Jeez, it's almost like Superman 64 was inspired by this game. Or maybe it's the other way around, I don't know. What's with the PS1 era and being obsessed with the goal of flying through rings? I don't know, it feels like this is something that they didn't really do as much of in later games. Like, fly through all these rings. Granted, pretty good showcase of graphical power, I suppose, you know. Having all these objects, not that a bunch of transparent rings take up a lot of space, I have to imagine, but yeah, this is another reason why I consider Ocean to be one of the harder speedways in Spyro 2. This is actually, at least in the PS1 version, is one of the harder missions, honestly. In general, the missions probably get a little easier as you're doing each speedway, but, you know, they get a little easier, but still pretty hard early on, if you're doing them in the proper order, which, you know, there isn't really a proper order. There's just an order that you can run into them. You don't have to do them in that order, but, you know, that's still a good thing about Spyro games for the most part. Spyro 2 is a little more linear since you have to get all 14 talismans and all that, but still, pretty fun time, and you can do the levels in mostly any order you want. You just have to eventually do all the levels eventually, so a fair compromise to be sure. But thankfully, this was first try. We flagged the last ring, and that's going to be the end of this little challenge.
Great job, Spyro. That was some excellent flying.
It's Spyro 2, man! Hell yeah! Hell yeah, Spyro 2. Ah, good old Idle Springs. One of the funkiest music tracks in Spyro 2, to be sure.
Spyro! The idols we were carving have come to life. They've locked us out of our temples and stolen our food.
Simple and to the point. You can definitely get that impression from the opening cutscene. So last time we took care of Colossus, a little bit of Glimmer because you have to backtrack to get everything in Glimmer. We'll be doing that off screen. For now though, now that we have the ability to swim, courtesy of Moneybags, we won't have to backtrack to Idle Springs. We can do everything here on the first visit, which is nice. And again, I gotta give props to the funky music track for Idle Springs. The composer for Reignited Trilogy did a very good job keeping the spirit of that music track intact. Thankfully. So, what we're going to do is we're going to dive underwater from the get-go because we're going to start a little bit of a chain of events here. It's a series of puzzles. As you can see, There's an orb being held hostage. There aren't too many orbs in here, I don't think. Double checking. Yeah, there's only 2 orbs here, so yeah, this guy has 50% of the orbs.
I've been locked in here with all our tools, and the giant idleheads won't let the workers in unless we can solve the 3 puzzles they've given us. The first puzzle is to turn all these blocks yellow. If you have trouble, come back and talk to me.
If you come back and talk to him, I believe he mostly just resets the puzzle. Alright, well, there's an interesting thing about puzzles like these. So, I think we do this, and bam!
Wow, Spyro, you did it! I knew you could do it. Now, meet me at the pond for the next challenge.
So, we're gonna head back to the start of the level. I will see you. And let's get this vase, underwater vase that I missed, and head back up here, passing by the foreman here. That's what all the NPCs here are called. They're called foremans. You'll notice that they're basically like the Colossus monks, but they're green instead of yellow. That's what I was talking about, where some of the levels in Spyro 2 kind of come in pairs in terms of the aesthetics and choices of the NPCs and whatnot.
Won't be satisfied.
So here we have an idol that we have to feed fish, but he's very picky. He only takes blue and yellow fish. You feed him a red fish, he spews everything out, kind of like that. This minigame can be kind of anxiety-inducing, I'm not gonna lie. And it can drag a little bit too, but hopefully we can keep a good pace after I totally intentionally demonstrated what happens if you feed the idol a red fish. I think overall that this minigame is improved from how it was in the original, but either way, this can go on a little bit. But this is only the second puzzle. There's only one more puzzle after this, so no big whoop. The only annoying thing is the fact that you need the swimming ability to be able to do this, because you only need to swim for the first puzzle. I mean, you could do the other 2 without swimming, so yeah, it kind of makes you wonder, honestly. Yeah, it seems like the red fish don't show up as much. Or maybe I'm just getting good RNG. I don't know what else to tell you. Taking a while for this fish to show up, though. Wow. Come on, fishy. Get this over with.
Okay, Spyro, just one more puzzle to go. I'll meet you over by the colored stones for your final challenge.
No joke. I was sitting there waiting for that last fish for like half a minute. Ah, man. Yeah, it's weird, the RNG with the fish in Idle Springs. So, I mean, whether you consider the puzzles getting easier or harder as you go through the challenge, I think it depends on the person, because, you know, everyone has their specialties. Some things they may struggle with more or less. When I was little, first time I did the challenge, I actually struggled with that first challenge a good bit. But having done those puzzles enough, you start to realize that there's actually a certain logic for those puzzles where if you strike them or you jump on them, they'll change a different color and you gotta make all the colors match. Once you've done it enough, you do start to notice a particular pattern. So, and patterns like the one I did are actually fairly common, I've come to find. So, yeah.
Those metal shields are making enemies invulnerable to your flame attack. If you press and hold the charge button, you can defeat them with your charge attack.
Alright, so Zoe again, she's the tutorial fairy in a way, and she'll rehash information from Spyro 1. For people that may not have played Spyro 1, they're going into Spyro 2 from Spyro 1. It makes more sense in the original context of each of these games. They were released individually within a year of each other, more or less, but here in Reignited, I guess having all this tutorial stuff makes less sense, but for the sake of consistency, it is appreciated to a degree. But yes, there is a combat system in the Spyro series, mostly the trilogy, but in the Spyro series, generally large enemies must be flamed in order to be slain. Smaller enemies that carry metal shields usually will need to be charged, because, you know, you can't really burn metal, unless this is Pokemon, in which case steel is weak to fire, for some reason. I guess it depends on the particular kind of metal or steel. And if you're dealing with an enemy that's large and armored, that's when you'll usually have to get creative. I don't think there's too many of those in Spyro 2 though compared to Spyro 1. But as we go through the game, I'm sure I'll be reminded one way or the other. In general, though, because of the change of enemies dropping spirit particles instead of gems, I feel like the enemies get much more of a backseat here in Spyro 2 compared to the original. Is it just me? And yeah, it would be nice if we went to Spyro 3 and the enemies drop gems again. I don't know. But hey, maybe that kind of a wish could be kind of a monkey's paw too. I guess we'll have to wait and find out when we get to Let's Play Spyro 3 Reignited. Oh boy, I'm really jumping the gun here considering how much more Spyro 2 we have left. So, okay, here's the last Foreman Bud puzzle. When you complete this puzzle, he's gonna warp you back to the start, like the pond and all that. But I don't want to show off the backtracking to have to come back here from there. So when I complete this puzzle, might actually take a couple tries. When I complete this puzzle and I get the orb, I'm gonna do another jump cut like I did earlier to get back here to save you guys some viewing time.
If you jump on these stones in the correct order, you will solve the puzzle. I only know what the first one is. It's up to you to figure the rest out.
Okay, so the logic for this puzzle, okay, so there's a star there. Get this star. This star is in the shape of a circle. Does that mean we get another circle? I guess it does. That one has a square on it. There are no squares left. Do we get the orange one next? Okay, that seems to be the case. Now we got a problem. Which of these do we do? Is it this one? Okay, wow. Second try, not bad. Not bad at all.
Nice job, Spyro. You're pretty smart for a dragon. All I have to give you is this shiny thing I found in our toolbox.
And that's going to be 50% of the orbs in Idle Springs. But yeah, nice little set of puzzles that are fairly easy to solve for kids. Anyway, we will be jump cutting back to the spot where we were just at. Kept you waiting, huh? Alright, yeah, that didn't take too long, but hey, save some time for the viewer and a little bit on my end too, huh? Alright, so this is going to be the end of the main path. If you talk to the foreman over there, you will get your talisman. I'm actually going to get this now. I believe it's better to get the talisman now, actually.
Spyro, you're pretty tough. If you ever want a permanent job, we've got a place for you here. But for the moment, I want you to have this talisman.
You will be happy to know that we are officially halfway through the Summer Forest talisman collecting. Alright, I decided to get it now because I think with the way this level is laid out, we're going to be all over the place, and it might just be better for me to pause and exit the level after I'm done with everything rather than backtracking back to the exit portal. So let's head over here. We've got a river, and we've got some gems laying around on the side as well. I want to say that's all there is, because this just takes you back to one of the intermediary areas. I believe it's safe to backtrack to the portal. Probably could have gotten the talisman now, but like I said, I think it's better to get the talisman now and just pause and exit the level when you collected everything. So we're going to keep going forward. There is a skill point in this level. There was one in Colossus, so I guess that's consistent in that regard. There is a skill point here, but it's a different kind of skill point. May not be able to get it right away. So there's like a stone tower over there, and we got to glide to it. I don't remember exactly the spot where we need to glide to it, but let's keep scouring the gems around here, and we'll look into that interesting looking area when we collect all the stuff we can up here. It's a pretty good bit to go through. A good bit of a runaround. Yeah, Idle Springs is a pretty big place. I really like it. I like the music track. I like the aesthetics. I've always really liked this level in general. I think this is a great start to this episode, honestly. But yeah, this will usually be the third level most people do in Summer Forest, I think. I just hope too many people didn't decide to do this one before Colossus, and then they're like, oh, I can't go into the water. Or maybe they didn't know it was even possible. They can't see anything down there. And they're just like, we got a problem. Alright, I don't think you... We're just gonna try to glide behind the Tiki instead of on top of it, because I'm pretty sure it's impossible. And If gems have fallen below you, you can use the handy-dandy Sparks Treasure Finder, could you imagine? Sparks Treasure Finder to find gems by clicking down on the left stick, or whatever the equivalent is on the version that you're playing. I hope you're playing this with a stick. We're going to do another jump cut back to the exit portal. Alright, back at the exit portal, we can see that guy knock himself silly. But now we're going to glide back and actually delve into that area that looked like a racetrack of some sort. Right over here. But we also have that skill point I was talking about, so we need to make a grand entrance by gliding on top of that stone statue. Don't ya know? Alright. It's definitely somewhere around here, I think, is the best spot to do it. It might be this spot over here. Okay, we're gonna have to do quite a bit of build up here, so allow me a moment of concentration. First try, baby! Alright, now, what we want to do, that guy over there looks very suspicious, but somehow I don't think we can defeat him through normal means. I know, he's a large enemy, so you'd think you could flame him. And he's not wearing metal armor. I don't know. I think that umbrella might be giving him some power of some sort. So why don't we use the supercharge, returning from Spyro 1, and free these ladies.
Look at that. The hula girl's ring dance blew up that idol like a Roman candle. Now I can pursue that dancing career I've dreamed of. Take this orb. It could help you go places.
Well, considering we've only gotten 2 orbs here, you know, it's not really a big boost to our orb count, but since orbs are not the priority in our adventure at this point, yeah, could come in handy. I think you only need 3 orbs to unlock Ocean Speedway, so that's pretty chill, honestly. There should only be a few gems left to go here. Wham, 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 wham. A lot of green and purple, I'm noticing. Alright, all the gems, all the orbs. We got the Talisman of Doom. Well, it was just an idol, you know. But yeah, that's Idle Springs, everyone.
Oh.